Hey pre-calc, it's Hoffbauer. I hope you're managing to stay on top of things this week while I'm gone. I am going to do a quick video here to revisit hyperbolas and to talk about writing an equation of a hyperbola. I'm going to go over a few things that we may have already talked about, so if you decide to fast forward through some things, that's up to you. I just want to make sure that everybody's on top of this for the quiz next week. So remember the difference. Remember, in an ellipse, there was a plus in here, okay? And in a hyperbola, there's a minus. So when you see the minus, you need to think hyperbola. And you also need to remember this when you get, this is different for an ellipse. Remember, a squared is always the one underneath the positive term in front of the minus sign, okay? When it is a hyperbola. When it's ellipse, a squared was the bigger one, but that's not true for hyperbola. Okay. We already did all these notes. Hoffbauer, where are you at? I think we didn't do this one yet. I'll just fly through this real fast. We have a 0, 0 as the center. It's going out 1 in either direction on the x. It's going up 3 in either direction on the y. You draw in the rectangle. You draw in the diagonals, and I'm doing a really crummy job. But then the x squared was first, and so that means it opens sideways around the x-axis, and it has a vertex here at -1, 0, and a vertex over here. Okay, that's not drawn well either, at 1, 0. And the diagonals were up 3 and over 1. So that would be y equals plus or minus 3 over 1x, or b over a. And you can reduce that to 3. And the foci are the only other thing we had to do. And remember, there's 2 different equations for finding foci. The one for hyperbolas, I remember because this has a minus in the middle, that it's a plus on this, which is just a weird way to remember it, but that's Hoffbauer's brain. So if I put in a squared, 1 squared is 1, 3 squared is 9. So c would be square root of 10. And that's where the foci would be at, which is like 3 point something. So they would be in here and here. Okay? So that was just a quick review. Gonna skip this one. I think we already did this one, but I'm going to go through this again real fast because it's on the quiz. I believe you're given a sketch of one. So because this is opening up and down, I know I'm using this guy. Oops, minus, minus, minus. Okay, and the center is at 2, -1. So I would have y minus, this is h and k, minus -1 or plus 1 squared minus x minus 2 squared equals 1. And then remember, the a is how far it went to the vertex. This distance is a. So 1, 2, 3, 4 squared would be 16 down here. And b is, and it's hard to tell on yours, I remember now, you told me it's hard to tell where this rectangle is. But if you count from the center up to the vertex and then over to the line, that will give you the b here as well. So that was 3, so this one's 9. So I think you should be okay on the one where I give you a graph, okay? But there is also a question. Maybe I'll go over this at the end of the video just for more practice, or this one. But for now, the big thing I want to review is the writing equations. It says I should do number 9 first because I think number 9 was a little more straightforward. So I'm going to go to number 9. Okay, so when you have, I'm just going to sketch super fast here. If we had over 0 and up 7, and down at -7 are the vertices. That means it's going to open up and down. So a sketch helps me think about which equation I'm using, but it also already tells me the center is at the midpoint of those, which I'm not going to give you anything super tricky to find a midpoint, but the center is clearly at 0, 0, okay? So H and K are 0. And you already also know A, because A is the distance from the center to the vertex. Let's think about where we would see that on the sheet. Let me grab a reference sheet. So on the reference sheet, when it opens up and down, it says the vertices are at H, comma, K plus or minus A. So if you have vertices at 0, or the center at 0, 0, the vertices are at 0, 7 and -7, there's your hint that A is 7, okay? Otherwise, like I said, it's just the distance from the center to the vertice. Now, if you know A is 7, the other thing you know when it's going up and down is y minus h equals plus or minus a over b x minus h, sorry, which is also 0. This was y minus k, I don't know what I said. But, so the slope should be a over b. Well, guess what? A is 7. So what do you think b is? Yeah, this is a over b, so b is 7. Or 9, I mean, sorry. So we're ready to write the equation. It opens up and down, so it's y minus 0 squared minus, and this one had a center at 0, 0, so it's x minus 0 squared equals 1. And this one is over a squared, which was 49. And this one is over b squared, which was 9 squared, or 81. There's our equation. All right, we're going to go back and do number 8 because it's got a little tweak to it. Again, I think our center is going to be at 0, 0, but let's draw a tiny little sketch. 6 to the right, 6 to the left. It's going to open sideways this time. The center, the midpoint is the center, so the midpoint is 0, 0. So the H and K are 0, 0. And that means our equation when it opens sideways is going to be x squared minus y squared equals 1. And we just got to find A and B. But there is a trick to this one, okay? And I don't know that I put this on the quiz, but this distance, A, is 6. Okay? We know that. I can also remind you that it's H plus or minus A, comma, K to find the vertices. And since this is 0 and this was 6, we know A is 6, okay? Because of this. But the problem is the slope, y minus 0 equals plus or minus b over a, x minus 0. The b over a is 3 over 2. So the ratio of b over a somehow became 3 over 2, when I know for a fact that A was 6. So A being 6 goes down here, and I need to figure out what B is, because it's been reduced. This was something over 6, and now it reduced to -3/2. So if I cross multiply here, I get 2B equals 18, B equals 9. So apparently the slope was 9, 6, and it reduced to 3/2. So B is 9. A, where did we write A? A was 6. So our equation is going to be here over 36, and 9 is 81 for b squared. Okay, I'm pretty sure I did not put one on the quiz where, I'm not even sure I put one of these at all, but if there definitely wasn't one where you had a reduced slope like this, okay? If I put one on the quiz, it would be more like number 9, which wasn't really very tricky. I am going to go to number 10. This one gives you a little different information, but again, I think the center's at 0, 0 because it says you go 9 to the right and 9 to the left, and those are the vertices. So the center again is at 0, 0. And A is 9. Okay. So I already know opening sideways means x minus 0 squared minus y minus 0 squared equals 1. And I even know A is 9. So A squared is 81. So all I have left to do, again, is find B. But the trick is, they're going to tell us something about B. The distance to the focus is 15. You might have to look back in your notes. But if the focus is out here at 15, I hope you remember the concept is that that distance is C. Okay? If you were to write it as an ordered pair here and say the focus, one of the foci is at 15, 0, you could look at your notes and say the foci is H plus or minus C, comma K, which would be 0 plus or minus 15, comma 0. So C is 15, okay? I hope you understood the concept, but if you had to use the recipe, you could. All right, so then we just need to go to the formula, and it said C squared equals A squared plus B squared. C squared would be 15 squared. A squared was 9 squared. So now we need to subtract and figure out what B squared is. If we subtract 9 squared from both sides, we have B squared equals 225 minus 81. I don't have a calculator, so I'm going to just do this quick. We get 12, 1, what did I get? Oh, 144. Yeah, that's a perfect square. Okay. For a minute there, I was confused. So if we square rooted that, we'd get B is 12. So it would, our rectangle would go up and down 12. But really, all we needed to know was the B squared that goes here is 144. All right, so one more of these. I'll go kind of quick. It says over 0 and up 4 and negative 4. So A is going to be 4 and H and K are going to be 0, 0. And this distance to the focus I talked about on the last explanation, but this is going to be C. All right, so opening up and down and having an A value of 4 and a center at 0, 0 will be y squared minus x squared, because the center's at 0, 0, and the y squared because it's going up and down, and A squared goes under the positive term here, so we're going to get a 16. But we have to fill in and figure out B based on this. So we have A squared, or I'm sorry, I'll do it this way. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So I have to figure out what 2 square roots of 13 squared is. And A squared is 4 squared. All right. So 2 squared is 4. The square root of 13 squared is 13. So this becomes 52, I think, equals 16 plus B squared. If I subtract 16, this would become 36. Oh, good. It comes out nice. I thought it did. So b squared is 36. B is 6 if you were doing the rectangle. But this is b squared, so you'd get 36 down there. Okay, so we finished up writing the equation. Sorry, I had to stop the video. So we were able to write the equation here. I don't remember if this kind is on the quiz either, but I don't think they're too bad as long as you remember that this represents C, and I don't think I would have given you one with a radical in it. All right. I'm going to go over these completing the square. We already did them, but if you're struggling with this, maybe just watch one more time. So I organize this with the positive 1 out front, and I move the other y with it, and then I move the -1 and the x's, and I move the constant to the other side. Then I want to factor out the coefficient so that y squared is by itself. When I divide this by 9, I get 12, and that's when I put a blank in. And this one, I'm going to take out the -1 because I want the x squared to be positive and by itself in the parentheses. Now, this is the trick, guys. Remember, you're dividing this by -1 and this by -1. So this becomes a -12x plus blank. And then you're going to have 2 blanks over here. And remember, the goofiness is that when you take half of this and you square it, you have really added 9 36s in there. So we have to do 9 times 36. And then we have this one we're taking half of and putting it in this blank. And you're really adding -136 over here. So then I believe we end up with a positive 144. If I remember right. And then we have to divide everything by 144. And 9 goes in there. Yikes. 16 times. So we get y minus 6 squared over 16 minus x minus 6 squared over 64 equals 1. I'm sorry, over 144. I don't know where that came from. All right, so that was completing the square on that one. Do this one quick. X squared plus 2x plus, I put the blank there. There was nothing to pull out. Over here, I'm going to do a -4. I'm going to pull that out of this parenthesis or factor it out. If I take out a -4 on the 2y terms here and here, I'll end up with a y squared and a plus 12y equals, and I'm adding 243 over to the other side. So I get x squared plus, nope, half bar, slow down. X plus 1, because I'm taking half. Then remember, 1 times 1 is just 1, and there was no coefficient, so we just added a 1. This guy, though, has a -4 out front. Half of this would be y plus 6. Squaring it is 36. And I'm adding -4 36s over here. 44. I think it's 100, if I remember. All right, then I just divide everything by 100. This leaves an x plus 1 squared over 100. This leaves a y plus 6, and 4 goes into 125 times. And I get a 1. So I'm done. All right, so your homework is to finish worksheet 5 and then do worksheet 9, which reviews hyperbolas and also reviews inverse trig. Okay, that's where you use the unit circle. On the quiz, I give you a unit circle that you can color and renumber, okay? You will not have a unit circle reference sheet, but I put one on the quiz, and the radian measures are left out down here so that you will be able to call this negative pi over 6 and so on. Okay, it also doesn't have the tangents on there, so you have to be able to write the tangent. You know, when this one is square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2, you're going to have to remember that means y over x. And so the tangent there is square root of 3 over 3. And you're welcome to write them on there. That's why I put it right on the quiz. Okay? Good luck.